What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Hart, and today I'll be breaking down the Monday Night Football showdown slate here on DraftKings. $1 million up top to first place. We have the Packers versus the Raiders, so hopefully it's a good game. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I'll be talking through my favorite core plays as well as building out potential lineup for you guys. The one for the main slate for this Sunday was really really good. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Hit that like button. Do really appreciate all the support. If we get to 20 likes in this video, that'd be fantastic. But yeah, it was a great day overall on Sunday for me. The core play, the final core play look video I had for the Sunday main slate did really, really well. Scored 200 points, or excuse me, 199 with two injuries. James Conner only got his four, did not play pretty much the whole game, as well as the Wandell Robinson concussion. So yeah, almost 200 fantasy points with two injuries, which is crazy. So very, very solid day on that. Very good day overall for me personally. Didn't win any huge money, but won my money back, won double that as well. So pretty solid day there for me. Looking to continue that into tonight. Excuse me, yeah, into tonight. So I'm gonna be uploading this Monday morning, recording it Sunday night. That's obviously that Cowboys 49ers game is not good at all. I think the 49ers just scored again. Not really sure what happened there. I literally think they just scored. It looks like they may have got like an interception return, TD, fumble return. I don't know what happened there, but yeah, they're absolutely destroying the Cowboys. But going to this Monday Night Football game, we have the Packers Raiders. It's in Vegas. It's a 45.5 game total, 1.5 point spread favored to the Raiders. So it should be pretty close, and it should be a pretty decently high scoring as well. So jumping over here to the Green Bay side, we'll start with them. Just wanted to take a quick gander at the snap counts here for Green Bay. So as we can see, week 4, Aaron Jones was back. He was on a snap count, only played 35%. AJ Dillon still got most of the work, but obviously AJ Dillon has been absolute garbage this year. So for this game, they still have Aaron Jones listed as questionable, but he should be good to go. He should be playing unless we get some random news that he's not. So definitely keep an eye out on that, but he should be good to go. I expect his snap count to increase. I'd say probably close to 40, 45%. Anything more than that obviously would be great, but we can see when they're both healthy, week 1, I was pretty much a 50-50 split. And then obviously he got hurt and hasn't been back till that week 4 game. But yeah, I expect close to 50-50 split. Now, AJ Dillon has been trash, just been garbage for them. So maybe they could look to Aaron Jones more, but at the same time, I don't think they want to give him too heavy of a workload when he still has that, lingering hamstring issue. So I think we can be safe expecting, 40 to 45% of snaps for Aaron Jones there, which definitely makes him viable. Romeo Dobbs, obviously, he's going to drop down probably to, it's going to be like, him and Watson are pretty much 1A, 1B in terms of wide receivers. Then, wide receiver 3 is going to be Jaden Reed there. And Wicks is going to be wide receiver 4, 58%. And they still mix in Torre a little bit, but as you can see, he's kind of gotten moved out of the rotation there with Christian Watson back. Luke Musgrave is the main tight end 1. I do expect to see his snap count get back up to the 75, 80 plus percent. He missed last game, most of it with the concussion. So they did look to DeGuara there for a bit. But I kind of expected to go back to that week 2, week 1 snap share count where it's Luke Musgrave playing 75, 80 plus percent. And they will mix in DeGuara there for 2 tight end sets, but nothing too crazy. And then moving on to the Green Bay side here on DraftKings, Aaron Jones at the top, 10K. As I mentioned, possibility he doesn't play, but he should be good to go with that hamstring injury. As I mentioned, we'll probably see about 45% of the snaps for him. So I think he's a really, really solid play. Does have enough upside as a captain play, but I do think right now I prefer him in the flex for me personally. Moving on to Jordan Love, it's going to be hard not to roster him in the flex. I do think it's a solid captain play just with all the returning pieces. Christian Watson, they have Dobbs, they have, or Dubes, whatever you want to call them. They have Aaron Jones, even AJ Dillon can catch passes out of the backfield. So they do, Musgrave, they have a lot of options. So that means, Jordan Love, he does like to spread the ball around. He does pass it a decent amount. As you can see, the past 2 games, 44 and 36. When it's close, tight games, they do look to pass it a good amount as well. And they have been down a decent, I think the past 2 weeks, they've been down a good amount of points and had to come back. So they obviously had to throw it more. But yeah, they would like to rely on the running game. So Aaron Jones, that should be more in touches for him, but still, they've been playing the best. Uh, but I think just overall, Jordan Love is just a solid flex play because as you can see, he's averaging 22 fantasy points per game. And if he's going to get us, at least 13, 14 fantasy points in this game here, he's probably going to end up in the optimal lineup for the most part. So I do like him as a flex play. Obviously, he has the upside there as a captain, but right now, I think I prefer him in the flex. Romeo Dobbs. Now we kind of get into the iffy range for me. I think I prefer getting to Christian Watson. He's a little bit cheaper. I know Christian Watson more of a boomer bust play, but that's kind of why I like him in the captain spot for me as of right now. He offers huge upside there. He should see a huge increase in snaps, probably close to at least 60, 65, 70% of the snaps here if he's good to go, which as you can see, he's not listed on the injury designation for tomorrow. So it'll be interesting. It's the analysis says it will be interesting to see how much work he receives with no injury designation. So it looks like he could be close to 100%. So anything over like 65, 70% of snaps, if he does get that high, would be fantastic. But still, offers huge upside there. Caught a touchdown last week. We know the upside with him is massive. He's just like he's a slightly safer boomer bust player than most, but still pretty boomer bust. So for that reason, I do like him in the captain spot, but prefer him there instead of the flex. But still, I think he's a solid option all around. Dobbs would be, option B for me. I do expect the targets to drop with Aaron Jones back, with Christian Watson back. I do expect this number to drop back down to like the 5 to 10 range in terms of targets for this game here, which makes him viable, but don't love that price tag. I think, he's one of those guys, does have enough upside for the captain spot, but still, I think he'd be my fourth favorite captain play. Would only go there if I'm looking to get different. He's an okay flex play overall. He's just kind of a shoulder shrug play for me. Same thing with Reed. I don't love the price tag for him here. Wide receiver three here, 6,200. His targets, I don't expect him to get a ton. Probably 3 to 5, 3 to 7 in that range at most. For that reason, that price tag, don't love it. He's just going to be more of a contrarian play there in the mid range. If you're going to go to the mid range, I'd rather go to Luke Musgrave. Probably plays close to 75, 80% of the snaps. As you can see, the first few weeks was starting to get a little bit better. 4, 3, then 8 in that New Orleans game. And it looks like he's going to be primed for a pretty solid game there against Detroit, but obviously got a concussion. So I think he's a very solid option there. Seeing a ton of snaps, the routes will come. So I do like him there. He's a pretty solid tight end, 5,200. AJ Dillon's going to be more just a super contrarian play. Now he could get the goal line work. Like if they do get into the red zone, he could pound it in. He could catch a few passes. So if he's going to be super low owned, I don't mind getting into him in a few lineups in the flex spot, just because he does have some upside there when they get to the goal line because he's pretty big. So they'll use him to just smash the ball into the red zone. So that's kind of my thoughts there. Not going out of my way to play him unless he comes in at like 15% ownership, maybe even less, which I doubt he will. I do think he'll still get probably 10 to 15% ownership, but yeah, not worthy of the captain spot. Just more so of a flex play to get pretty contrarian down here in this cheaper range. Moving on to the Packers defense, you could take a shot on them. I mean, it's one of those things. You need a defensive touchdown, otherwise it's not really worth it. So, not for me. The tight ends, or excuse me, the kicker. I don't mind getting to the kicker. It's just one of those things. The Packers really haven't been kicking a ton of field goals, but it's pretty random in terms of field goals. Packers do like going in at fourth down at times, but yeah, I do think the kickers are always viable, especially if you put if you put Jordan Love in the captain spot, you could definitely go to a kicker in the flex spot there. Would be a pretty solid play. So yeah, the kicker's definitely viable. Not going on my way to right now to play them, but they're definitely there. Degora, he'll probably play, as we can see, probably 30 to 40% of the snaps when they do run double tight end sets, but nothing too crazy there. He'd just be more of a Hail Mary, a dart throw play. Same thing with Torre. He's really getting limited there. Just a Hail Mary dart throw play. When you're getting down to these guys, nothing really stands out in terms of value besides Wicks, who will be wide receiver 4. It'll be interesting to see kind of how much he snaps he plays. Was it he played about 40% of the snaps in week 4 there, 58%, and he only saw one target. So as you can see, not going to be heavily targeted. He's going to be like fourth or fifth on the pecking order there. But still, he's pretty cheap price tag. So I will mention him. He will play snaps. He's only $200. Could easily pay off that price tag with just a few catches there. So I will mention him. He'll probably be pretty popular as a value play, but it's just one of those things. He's not getting a ton of targets, so he's definitely risky. Moving on to the Las Vegas side, obviously the big news here is Devonta Adams is questionable with that shoulder injury, which he did miss a few plays there, but it did come back, and he absolutely went off in that kind of like the final drive for them. I think he had like 5 catches for like 50 yards and almost had a touchdown. Should have had a touchdown, but they ended up running the play, so they couldn't review it. Kind of screwed themselves there. But yeah, in terms of the snap count percentage here for the Raiders situation, Josh Jacobs 70%. Jakob Johnson, 34%, Amir Abdullah, 21%. But I do expect it to get back to kind of the week three numbers or week two numbers here, where it's going to be 80% or more Josh Jacobs, and they'll mix in Amir, Johnson, and Zamir White a little bit, but nothing too crazy. Wide receiver situation. Obviously, Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, wide receiver 1 and 2. They're going to play about 90% of the snaps. Hunter Renfro, he's seen a little bit of an increase. Obviously, 22% week one, then 65, dropped back down to 51, but then 45 there. So he should see about 50% of the snaps. I don't mind him there as wide receiver three. Wilkinson hasn't seen much since the past 2 weeks. Trey Tucker seen about 20 snaps a game right now, in that 15 to 25% range. Same thing with Carter, seen about 10% snaps, 10 to 15%. Tight end situation, Hooper, Meyer, seen about a 50-50 split here last week. Before it was obviously Hooper 76, Mayer 47. But I think we can kind of expect close to a 50-50 split, maybe 60-40, Hooper to Mayer. So with that in mind, obviously you love Devontae Adams. Really hard not to get to him in the flex play or captain play. It's just he has massive upside, revenge game narrative for him. I think he should be good to go. So he'll obviously be probably the most optimal captain, just with his upside there. But I think right now I prefer him in the flex, just getting a little bit contrarian. Put him in the flex, go to a different captain play. But obviously we know the upside there with him. It's his floor is massive and his ceiling is massive. So it's just one of those things. It's really hard to fully fade him unless you think the Packers are going to lock him down. Now, Jair Alexander is questionable once again. So if he misses, that really, really does help out Devontae Adams. If he's back, it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens if they guard each other or if, Jair guards Devontae. But still, I think Devontae, he's pretty much matchup proof, quarterback proof, super, super good play there in the flex. I do think Josh Jacobs is going to be one of those guys you could definitely fade for this game here. He's the second option. Everything kind of does run through him right now, but it's one of those things where he's coming off an outlier game. I do think a lot of people are going to jump to that. A lot of you, the casuals, will jump and just see like, oh, he got 11 targets. He's seen a ton of rushing attempts, which is all great, but you got to factor in that Devonte Adams did miss, I think, at least a drive or two in that game. So they did look to Josh Jacobs more. They were dumping it down. It was a rookie quarterback, so they were dumping it down even more because of just being a rookie quarterback, being under the pressure, throwing to Josh Jacobs. So I do think we can kind of expect in the 3 to 6 target range for Josh Jacobs, probably around 15 rushing attempts. So I think it's a solid play, not a must play, just because he's been super inefficient in terms of running the ball. But as we saw last year, he got off to a super super slow start, and they still continue to defeat him. And I think he absolutely exploded the second half of the year. Was like one of the best running backs the second half of fantasy football. So I think it's a solid play. You can make the argument to fade him, but it's going to be hard fading, one of the top two guys for the Raiders just because they do so much. Jimmy G, now I do think you can fade Jimmy G. He's been super, super inconsistent. As you can see versus Buffalo, obviously a blowout, so it doesn't help. But even against Denver, 16 fantasy points. He did put up 23 against Pittsburgh. So he's more of a shoulder shrug play for me. I think I'd rather get to, Jacobs or Devontae over Jimmy, but he's definitely there. And if you're going to play, Devontae Adams, it probably makes sense to pair him with Jimmy Garoppolo as well. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts there. But Jimmy should be good to go. Let me get back to the Vegas side here. Moving on down here to Jacoby Myers, 7,000. I really like him coming off of a letdown game there. Only 4 targets, caught 2 for 33. He did have like a 50-yard catch get overturned because they called pass interference on him, offensive pass interference. So he could have had another catch for another like 40, 50 yards, which actually would have been, a pretty solid game there. At least 10 fantasy points would have made it look a lot better. But as we can see, week 1 and 2, 10 targets, 12 targets. So I do think we'll get that number jump back up to around the 8 target range, if not more. So I think he's a really, really solid play there at 7,000. And I think he's one of those guys you can definitely put in the captain spot because Jimmy G does like to target Jacoby Myers a good amount, as we saw in weeks 1 and 2. So yeah, I do like Jacoby Myers a good amount here for this game, at least in the flex, if not a captain play. Moving on down here, I do like Carlson more. It's the brother versus brother, Carlson versus Carlson. Once again, the Raiders haven't been kicking a lot of field goals, so it'll be interesting to see. I wouldn't be surprised if both the Carlson brothers go off in that little narrative there, and because both have been bad in terms of just their output for kicking field goals, but still, the kickers are always viable. Could be a game where both offenses struggle, and they do end up kicking a ton of field goals. So I do actually, now they mention it, do like the kickers more than usual as of right now. Raiders defense, as I said, you need like a defensive touchdown for it to work out. Don't want to go there. Then we get into the more of the dart throw plays here for the Raiders side. So we know with the Raiders, their offense really just comes down to Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, and Jacoby Myers. That's pretty much it. It's just a three-headed monster. And then after that, it's just more of a dart throw. As I said, the kicker is kind of a dart throw. We get down here to Zamir Wright, who not seeing a ton there, did have 3 attempts, but still not really worth it for 3,200. There's just more of a very, very bad play there. Hunter Renfro is pretty cheap here for a value play. He's probably looking like the best value play across the board. Probably going to play about 50% of the snaps. Not seeing a ton of targets, but he's definitely out there running the ball, or excuse me, running the routes. At least 50% of the time he's out there for the snaps. So I think it's a solid value play there, 2,200, because we're not getting a ton of value. It's really going to be just Hunter Renfro, and it's going to be Wicks at $200 on the Packers side. So not a ton of value under 4,000 for either team here. Amir Abdullah, if you think this game gets out of hand, or if they need to throw the ball because they're down a ton, he could get more work. But yeah, still all just kind of shoulder shrugs, dart throw plays down here. Nothing really stands out. Austin Hooper just really hasn't been involved, so gonna be more of contrarian plays getting down to Austin Hooper or Michael Mayer. I prefer getting to Hooper just because he's still tight end one, but it's one of those things. They're just not getting involved at all in the passing game here. But it's showdown. You can never rule anyone out, even though these guys haven't been performing, haven't been getting the targets. All it takes is for them to get some goal line looks. Maybe he gets a goal line catch for a touchdown, as well as maybe 1 or 2 catches during the rest of the game. He could end up with 10, 12, 14 fantasy points. So yeah, never rule out these cheap guys, the guys that haven't been involved in the first few weeks, just because it's showdown slate. If you want to get different to win that $1 million at first, these are some options, some routes to go. Would be get different with Hooper there in the flex. Hunter Renfro in the flex. Don't mind them there. So yeah, that's kind of my take on this slate so far. In terms of core plays, I would say right now, actually, let's just finish out this lineup build. So we have Watson in the captain spot, Aaron Jones, Jordan Love. It's kind of like a little bit of an onslaught there, expecting the Packers to do pretty solid. Jacoby Myers, do like him. I would say we wanted to get to probably Devontae Adams. If we did that, we'd want to get to Jimmy G, 2 of the pass catchers for the Raiders. But obviously, it's hard to get to him there with that. So let's just see here. If we can work this around, I don't mind going to, getting different with Musgrave there in the middle, as well as you could look to, Reed there, do more so of the Packer stack, and then, bringing back 2 of the people, 2 people from the, Raider side. Don't mind that. Let's just kind of play around. Let's just get Hunter in there. 9,300 left over. Could get to Dobbs. I don't mind this one. Obviously, having multiple pass catchers for Green Bay, I'd feel it'd probably make more sense to put Jordan Love in the captain spot if we do that. But still, I don't mind this. You have 1,100 left over. You have Jacoby Myers. You have Hunter Renfro. Then you have more so of like an onslaught of the Packers. So I guess right now that could be the early look build there. I'll probably have a final look on my Twitter. So tune into my Twitter for that. I'll rearrange it. But in terms of like core plays as of right now, I think it's going to be probably these 3 in Jacoby Myers at 7,000. I'm gonna really, really try to get at least Devontae or Jacobs into my build here. I'm not sure how it's gonna work out. Probably might have to take Watson out of the captain spot or drop, maybe Jordan Love, Jacoby Myers, maybe just replace him with Devontae. But yeah, these are kind of the plays I'm starting to build my lineups around. It's gonna be Christian Watson, do like him in the captain spot, Aaron Jones, Jordan Love, and Jacoby Myers. So hope you guys liked the video. Hit that like button and subscribe. Do appreciate all the support. Now, we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.